So all of the new essays of AP World is the same exact as AP Euro, is the same exact as A Push. So once you learn them here, when you get to A Push, I can tell you right now, they're not going to teach it. What do you need, my darling?
A map.
Oh, there's some in my folder right over here.
Oh.
If you open it up, you'll see it. Oh, a map?
Oh, no.
Okay. So what we need to address is that when you guys are writing your essay, your back of spice, you're missing some big points. So I'm going to write back of spice at the top of my paper. I will tell you what you need to write and what you don't need to write. Okay. So when you look at your back of spice, specifically for this week, okay, it says explain two major differences between the difference between the Greek empires and the Persian empires. So you don't have to write anything down yet. Just listen. So the first prompt is always addressing the differences. Would you agree? The last 2 weeks it has been, and for a while it will be until I introduce one of your other essay topics. Because remember, you have 4 short essays and you have 2 long essays for a grand total of 6. One of them will always address differences, so that's why you're writing the differences. So this is what you are writing. When you are addressing the differences, you always start with an introduction. This is what you are writing. Introduction. You need to address both civilizations. Typically, they're always going to be civilization, and provide both differences in a big picture way. You're not going to specifically state the details. You're going to write it in a very broad, big picture way. So you are writing this down right here. No, I'm not ready for that. If you want to flip through and see any other period 2 stuff, you can. Can you handle that? Oh my God. I'll do it later. I'll do it later. Just don't worry about it. Go sit for your test. Thank you, sweetie. Okay, so the big things you need to know is you're addressing both. Now, you can write this down, but I'm currently recording this video, so you don't have to write this down. I have an example for you, so you know exactly what it looks like. So the example I wrote is the Phoenicians and the Mesopotamians were some of the world's first civilizations, and they were unique in their diversity of professions and in their government structures. So, just by, and you don't have to write this down, guys, already the Phoenicians and the Mesopotamians were some of the world's first civilizations. Can we agree that I at least know where I am in history? Okay? I know I'm the beginning of civilizations. It clearly shows that I know what I'm talking about. And they were unique in their diversity of professions and in government structures. Do you see how I could change both of these to reflect whatever I want? Do you see how they're kind of broad? Okay, that is it. That is your first sentence. Leave it like that. Everyone understand? So now we have a broad, we have specifically addressed both civilizations, and we have addressed them in 2 different ways. Okay, we have a quick introduction, and that's it. Okay, everyone's clear on this? Does this make sense? Okay, so the second thing you do is this is what you are then going to write down. Explain with evidence. With evidence. You're going to address both civilizations when addressing each difference. So, if you're comparing Phoenicians to the Mesopotamians, you actively have to say, while the Phoenicians were doing this, the Mesopotamians were doing that. Does that make sense? You can't talk all about Phoenicians and then start talking about the Mesopotamians. You aren't going to score anything because you're not making direct comparisons. When you are making direct comparisons, you are showing sophistication, you are showing knowledge of your areas, as well as you're following the protocols they want you to. Okay? When explaining each civilization, then you provide your evidence. Okay? You can never just start writing, you have to provide evidence. Okay? So, when you explain your evidence, or explaining your diversity of professions, or your government structures, you address both civilizations every single time. Okay? Alright, so you do not have to write this down. So the example, now I wrote this really quick last period. So the Phoenicians were a sailing-based society where a majority of its population were in either shipbuilding professions or in a merchant/sailor profession, while Mesopotamia had a much more diverse population. Do you see how I have addressed both in the same sentence? That is a direct comparison. I am clearly addressing the diversity of professions, and I am attacking both, stating both in the same sentence. Okay? Does it show, is the evidence already is knowing that a lot of my Phoenicians are in merchants and sailors, okay, and shipbuilding. That is evidence. That clearly tells me. Evidence is little nuggets of knowledge. You know, little, woo, oh, they know that. Ooh, wonderful. Okay, that is what evidence is. Okay? Mesopotamia had no specialty, so they had a large array of merchants, government officials, and noble class because of its location along the Tigris and Euphrates River, while the Mediterranean Sea dominated Phoenician life. Obviously, I'm writing this very quickly and awkwardly. Phoenician life. Do we see how every time I say one, I always tie it to the other? Because when you're comparing someone, you wouldn't describe Reed has longish blonde hair and is wearing a yellow shirt and is wearing khakis. Lauren has strawberry blonde hair. She's wearing a gray shirt and she's wearing jeans. Am I comparing them or am I talking about each one separately? There you go. Lauren has strawberry blonde hair while Reed has blondish hair. Do we see how we've already made a direct comparison? So every time you write, you have to write one directly tied to the other. Is that clear? Does that help? So you're going to do this for both. So we just did it for diversity, then you would do it for government structures, writing them in direct comparison. Everyone get what I'm trying to get at? Now for this week, last week and for this week's Spice, I'm kind of just looking at it, and the points, I'm kind of handing out the points whether you like it or not. For this week's Spice, this is what I'm looking for. Is that clear? Okay. All right, so your other question is always an agree or disagree, correct? When you're writing an agree or disagree, how many of you always start it with, I agree or I disagree? All of you do it. Raise your damn hands. You're all guilty of it. You will never write, I agree again. I disagree again. So this is what you need to write. Under agree, write under the heading agree or disagree so you know what prompt you're looking at. Okay? Your intro. Never write, I agree or disagree ever again. Ever. Okay? So, introduce your opinion by restating the prompt to support your defense. You're just going to simply restate what you are going to defend. On your essays of your 6, you're going to have to defend your opinion in both long essays and in 2 of the short. So 4 essays, you have to defend your opinion. By using the word I, you make it about you and not your argument. It's also in poor taste. Okay? So you will never use the words I agree or I disagree. I'm going to show you exactly what you need to do. So you are just going to show your opinion by restating the prompt to support your defense. All right. You don't have to write this down, but here's an example. The Egyptians were the most influential society during period 1 due to their religious practices, their government structure, and their infrastructure. Did I have to use the word I agree or I disagree in order to tell my opinion? Nah. You just restate the prompt to defend what you want. Now, how many broad things should you have in your introduction? 3. Okay, so I will then defend religious practices, government structure, and infrastructure. Does that make sense? My introduction, I've clearly laid down my opinion, and I'm going to prove it in these ways. Everyone's clear on that? Okay, So when you get to your evidence of it, you're going to address both civilizations to strengthen your argument. So last week you had to compare what did you have to do? Or 2 weeks ago. First one you had to do Mesopotamia and the Egyptians. You had to go back and forth, correct? Okay, so every time you make an argument, you should be writing this down, by the way. Every time you make an argument, you're going to use both to strengthen your argument. And I'll show you what that looks like here in a second. Okay, so my example is, unlike Mesopotamia, the Egyptian had a ruler who was the center of government and religion, who easily controlled and strengthened the state. So, remember, I'm trying to prove that Egypt is better, so I have to address what the Mesopotamians are doing. You don't have to do it in a major way, but you need to address it. Unlike Mesopotamia, I've already put Egypt above. You have to reinforce your argument. Just like if you want to trick your parents into letting you go to a friend's house when they don't want you, you have to strengthen your argument by saying, well, Mom, they're really good at AP World and they're going to help me with AP World. You know, right now she just got an A on her last test. She'll be able to help me out and study for that test. You know, all this other stuff. You have to support your argument. Okay? So, how many times will you do this in your essay, in your little short essay? 3 times. They'll support it in 3 different ways. All right. That is all you'd have to write for 1, and then you'd have to go for 2. Okay? Does everyone understand exactly what I'm looking for? Do you see how this is much more sophisticated than what you were writing? Do you see how with just a little bit of tweaking, it's already much stronger? Hopefully you're not thinking like, oh my God, I have to redo everything I've ever done to make this accommodation. You're just kind of tweaking your language and making direct comparisons. Everyone good? All right, take out your map. Please. Now keep in mind, if you need to go and hear this again, I will have a YouTube video for it. I'm recording it right now. Okay, so everyone, we are going to start on the front. The front is always identified by the by the title, number, name, and week. Of course, you have written down your number, your name, and your week. Of course. It's ridiculous for me to even say that, Avi. Ah, I see Lily's proud. All right, here we go. Atlantic Ocean over here. Atlantic Ocean. We have the Mediterranean Sea. We have the Black Sea. We have the Caspian Sea. Persian Gulf. Arabian Sea is over here. Red Sea. And this is your Indus River. Your Hindu Kush Mountains are right here. Your Caucasus Mountains are right here. Okay. This is Greece. This is Macedonia. Who is the most famous person from Macedonia? What do you got, Max? Alexander the Great. Alexander the Great is actually not Greek. He's a Macedonian. But that's okay, we'll get to that. All right, you need to know that this is Anatolia. Okay. The capital city of the Persian Empire is called Sardis, S-A-R-D-I-S. Its other major trading city is going to be called Susa, which is way over here, S-U-S-A. And those are the big ones you need to write. Now, over here, you need to have you need to have 5 boxes.
What is the area between the Black Sea and the Caspian?
Black Sea, oh, it's the Caucasus Mountains. So, your first empire is going to be the Achaemenid Empire. Okay, and this is your first empire. This is your Persians, by the way. This is your Persian map. The other side will be your Greeks. Your first empire. Now the Achaemenids are going to be your most influential. They're going to be your largest. Your Seleucids are going to be your second one. They're going to be after your Alexander the Great is going to come in. This one is going to be shared between both the Greeks and the Persians. It is a blending because Alexander the Great, although he's a conquering leader, he does bring some good things to Persia. So it's like a blended. Then you have the Parthians. The Parthian Empire is the one that is going to fight the Romans. Now, it is important for you to understand now that, and I'm just going to do a quick little drawing. You don't have to do it. So, the Persians are going to be consistent. For a while, you have the Greeks, and then you have, and the Persians are going to die here. They die. Okay, and these are your Romans. Okay, this is the end of the Persian Empire. It's the end of the Persians. Okay? The Persians exist pre-Greek. They are going to watch the Greek Empire rise and fall. They're going to continue. Then they're going to meet the Romans. The Greeks and the Romans do not overlap. The Greeks and the Romans do not overlap. However, the Persians overlap both the Greeks and the Romans. Okay? It's important that you understand that. The Greeks will never fight the Romans will never fight the Greeks, but the Persians fight the Romans and the Greeks. Welcome to period 2. Things get a lot more complicated. Alright, so your Parthian Empire, they're the ones who are going to fight the Romans. And then your fourth and final empire is the Sassanid Empire, and they are going to be your first Muslims. So Islam is going to be created during period 2, and that is going to be a huge empire, a huge influence on the whole thing, and they call themselves the descendants of the Achaemenids. Now your final box is we're going to draw a squiggle in it, just like that, and this is going to be your royal road. Now your royal road is actually going to be made by the Achaemenids. Now the Achaemenids are the most important of the Persian civilizations. Now your royal road, we're going to do that one first, is going to connect Sardius to Susa, and it goes just a little bit beyond. Okay, now the Persians are the first to build roads. They're the first. When we say roads, it's not like a beaten path. We're going to talk about it's paved. And it's going to be used to move their military. It's going to be used for dominance of military as well as government control. The Persians have a really cool government strategy. They believe in spies is the most effective way to rule your people. So they have hundreds of thousands of spies embedded throughout the Persian Empire waiting to report you back. Is that an effective way to rule? Yes, it's called terror. Yes. This is the Caucasus Mountains. Alright, so my Achaemenid. Do the best you can, people. This is going to be a very complicated map. There's a lot of overlap. Now your Achaemenid, they are the most important of your Persian empires. Here we go. We're going to start down in Egypt. Do the best you can. I'm not expecting it to be perfect, just effort. Okay, they're going to take over here. They're going to connect over here. Then the Caucasus Mountains, we're going to go around. They're going to go right here. Okay, when I color it in, it'll be easier to see. So I'm going to start in Egypt over here, coloring it in. Now, the Achaemenid Empire is the most influential of the Persians. They are going to be the ones who are going to standardize currency. What does standardizing currency mean? What do you got, Micah? It will be what? everyone in the civilization is using it, and it is representative, which means that the government is making the currency. The US dollar, if you have a real US dollar in front of you, always looks the same. Can we agree? Okay, that is a standardized currency. That a coin that's that big is worth 25 cents. A coin that's worth that big is 10 cents. A coin that big is 5 cents. Okay, that is a standardized currency. The Persians are the first to do it. The Persians are also the first to have a post system, a mail carrying system, which is pretty cool. Your next major empire, the Seleucid Empire, is going to come after Alexander the Great. When we do our Greek map on the back, you're going to see that it's going to be the same. Now, the Seleucid Empire is going to have a huge Greek influence because of Alexander the Great. You're also going to see it's going to have less territory, except over here, it's going to expand some. Okay, now this is going to be controlled by the descendants of Alexander the Great's generals. Now, Alexander the Great is going to only really exist and be building his empire for about 30 years. He is going to start leading the military at age 14. Does anyone know how he dies? What do you got?
Wasn't it like they're pretty sure someone poisoned him?
No, it's even worse than that. He dies of indigestion. He drank and ate too much. His stomach started having ulcers, and because every night they would celebrate with all of his men. And so he died in a drunken mess. Yeah, Alexander the Great. Now, Alexander the Great is the second largest empire by a single man. My Parthian Empire, by the way, is going to be red. He is the second largest empire created by a single person. Does anyone know who the first one is? What do you got?
Caesar?
No. Julius Caesar actually really didn't build an empire. He transformed the Roman Republic into an empire, but he's actually not building an empire. What do you got, Isabella?
Genghis Khan.
Genghis Khan. He's going to have the largest single empire created by a man, followed by Alexander the Great. This is the Parthian Empire. This is the Persians that are going to fight in the Persian Wars with the Romans. They're going to be smaller. They're going to be pretty effective, but they're mostly known for their fighting of the Romans. And then I'm going to have my Sassanid Empire, which is going to be a dark green. And my Sassanid Empire is going to be my first truly Islamic Middle Eastern empire. They're going to be spreading Islam throughout the Middle East. Have you ever wondered why Islam is all over the Middle East? It's the Persians who did it, specifically the Sassanid Empire. So their biggest contribution to their empire is their spreading of Islam. They also have really effective government workers. They're going to be so effective that the Chinese are going to come and steal the Persian people to make them work in their government in China. That's how effective they are. So I'll give you 10 seconds to get caught up, and then we're going to switch sides because the other map is just as complicated. So you have 4 major Persian empires, the Achaemenid, the Seleucids, the Parthians, and the Sassanids. I cannot stress enough grasping the concept that the Persians exist throughout the Greek rise and fall, and they are there for the Roman rise. The Persians die out in the middle of the Romans. Not specifically in the middle, but it's easier to think that way. Okay? So here is your Persian map. All right, I'm going to flip it over. You can do your easy coloring later, like filling in the map and all that stuff. All right, so here is the back. You need to label your Mediterranean Sea, please. This is your Mediterranean Sea. You have your Atlantic. You have your Red Sea, Persian Gulf, your Arabian Sea. You have your Caspian. Okay, and Black Sea. I can tell you one thing, you will know your geography a lot better by the time you leave my class. Does that make you feel good?
Yeah.
Good, you should be. All right, here's Greece. Okay. And that's the big. All right, here we go. So right here is an important city called Byzantium. Now, Byzantium, Byzantium, is an important city because it controls trade between Asia or the Middle East and Europe. It's going to be a huge city for the rest of the year, except it's going to change names. Athens is located right here on the Greek peninsula. You also have Sparta right here. Okay, over here you have Cyprus, and then you have Crete, which I've been to. I've been to a couple of these places. I went this summer. It was pretty awesome. Okay, now over here you need 5 boxes, please. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So in the middle of this top box, you are just going to draw a big dot. And you are going to write a Greek colony. What do we call Greek colonies? Oh my God, Molly, you were so proud of this earlier. Polis, P-O-L-I-S. They're known as polises. What you're going to have here is your Alexander. Alexander is going to come first of the empires we're going to cover. Alexander's empire. Then you have the Seleucid Empire. Seleucid Empire, which is post Alexander the Great. Then you're going to have the Antigone and Antigode, just kidding, O-N-I-D Empire. Then you're going to have the Ptolemaic. Welcome to Greece. Sure. Okay, and technically, I'm just going to put a little arrow. These are both in your Hellenistic empires. Okay?
Is it L-O or P-T-O?
P-T-O-L-E. Sure. Okay, so here are your major ones. Okay? So, what we're going to look at is we're going to start doing some colonies. So, you're going to have, now has anyone ever been to Greece? No. Okay, I have. I just wanted to let you know. Okay, when you fly into Greece, it's actually not very pretty. When you fly into Athens, it's really ugly. It's a big brown, it's all brown, and it's all bushes. Like these low-lying bushes that look like they have no life to them, like they've never, it looks like winter up north before it snows. Does that make sense? Everything looks dead. The bushes look dead, everything looks dead. Greece can really only grow 2 things. They can grow grapes and olives. Okay, can you really support a large population on grapes and olives? No, there'll be a happy population, especially with the grapes. However, you cannot support a growing population. So as the population of Greece is growing, there's a huge problem, and the problem is food. Because they don't have enough food, the Greeks are like, oh my God, we have to go get more food. We have to figure this out. So what they did is they went to different regions along the Mediterranean Sea and they set up colonies. It's important to know these colonies are the only part of that area they control. They don't control all of Spain. They just control this little port area. From this territory, they import wheat. That is the largest import the Greeks are bringing back to Greece, is wheat, because Greece can't grow wheat. It takes too much nutrients from the soil and they just can't do it. They're bringing in all their resources and they're bringing it back to Greece. That is how they're supporting their population. They depend entirely on imports. Okay? Now, so that's all of your colonies. The first major empire is going to be Alexander the Great. Okay, now Alexander the Great is going to be all the way up here and cut through Greece. I'm just going to color that in super quick. Now, Alexander the Great is actually from Macedonia. And does anyone know who Alexander the Great's teacher was?
Was it
No, it wasn't Archimedes. It was
Aristotle.
Aristotle is his teacher, and he grew up with him. Can you imagine having like such an incredible like teacher? Crazy. It's important to know that in fact he is not Greek. He's Macedonian, but his biggest contribution to Greek history is spreading Greek culture and Greek art. He loved Greek culture. Mostly because of his love of his teacher, Aristotle, who's a big fan of Greek culture. And he brought Greek culture and the awareness of what was happening on this peninsula to this whole territory. Keep in mind, pre-Alexander the Great, the Greeks just had colonies. They didn't, in fact, have a massive territory. They weren't in control, they just had colonies. After Alexander the Great, as you can see how expansive his empire is, you can see that the Greeks are going to be controlling, regulating it, and inputting their laws, which is different from the colonies. They are going to be controlling what the people in this region are doing, and they are going to be spreading the Greek influence and culture. Now, Alexander the Great is only going to be empire building for about 25-30 years until he dies. The cool thing about Alexander the Great and his rule is that when he conquers a territory, he then leaves one of his generals behind to run the territory, and he requires his generals to marry a local girl and start a local dynasty. Okay, the reason why that's cool is A, it shows that these invaders want to have a local connection. Can we agree? They're also going to use local people to help control and regulate this new empire, which is really cool. Although Alexander Empire is only going to last about 50 years by the time it collapses, his influence is going to be a huge mark, which is what the Seleucid Empire is going to be. Now, the Seleucid Empire, which is what I am drawing now, is the remnants of Alexander the Great's empire. Now, this remnants is going to be run by it's going to be run by the Greeks, but it's going to have a huge Persian influence. It's kind of a hybrid between the two, as you know, since we've already drawn this map on the other side. True, not true? This one we have. Okay, it's a hybrid between the Greeks and the Persians because Alexander's empire was so influential on them. Once the Persians were controlled by the Greeks, they liked some of the things the Greeks did. So the Seleucid Empire is a blending of the Greeks and the Persians. That is going to end because the Persians are then going to say, you know what, we're done with that. And the Greeks are going to die off to a degree and fall into the Hellenistic times. Now, in the Hellenistic times, we're going to have a couple small territories, not nearly as influential as the Alexanders or Seleucid. However, they're still going to be around kicking it. The first one is just going to be along the peninsula of Greece and Macedonia. However, it's going to conquer all of Sparta too. So I've just colored my red just over here. You'll notice I did color in Athens and Sparta as well down there. That's all for the Antigone. And then you also have the P1. I'm going to use this ugly fuchsia color. And that one is just going to be over here. So you'll notice this Greek Empire is nowhere near. This Greek Empire is nowhere near. This Greek Empire is nowhere near. Greece, yes. Okay. Some of you are in AP Art History, correct? Okay. In AP Art History, Ren is going to do such a better job. But pre-Greek invasion of Egypt, the Egyptian art is going to be super like structured and super like straight and stuff like that. It's going to be like your traditional Egyptian art. After the Greeks take over it during the Ptolemaic Empire, I'm done by the way, so you can start coloring in your landmass and your water so you can be totally done with this map. They are going to be influenced into making more lifelike art sculptures and stuff like that. Yes, ma'am?
The
people?
whatever,
Sure.
It's over Greece, that part.
No, it's not. It's just
I can't
down
tell
here.
what it is.
Does that work? Oh, sorry. Does that help? So I would start coloring in your landmass so you can just finish this map and get all your points. So you're going to see that the Greeks are going to have a large influence. It is not until you get to the Hellenistic empires, which are the Antigone and the P1, is that you still have the Olympics. The Olympics aren't during the time of Socrates, Aristotle, all that. It's actually much, much later when the Greeks are dying off, which is pretty cool to know. So what you're going to do now is you're just going to finish coloring in your map so that way you can be done with it and that way you don't have to worry about it. Are you glad we did these together? Do you think looking at a picture would be much harder to do? A lot of complication. Remember, we're trying to do this as fast as possible, so don't spend a ton of time coloring it in. However, don't make it awful either. Make it so I can give you your 10 out of 10 points, please, because a lot of you are losing easy points. How much time do I have? Anyone have any idea? 5. Perfect. That means you have more than enough time to finish your map. And there you go, guys.